This is the presentation of the digital dive log signature system by Aaron Suchovsky and Vince Augustine.
The project purpose is to make an app that automates the outdated system of signing off on dive logs. Our goal statements are to design a highly efficient QR code scanner that will allow dive masters to sign off on dive logs in a faster, more efficient way. Another goal statement is to design an app that will replace an outdated system. And the final goal statement is to allow dive masters to sign hundreds of dive logs in a matter of minutes. Our contact information, my number is 724-996-0946, and my email is there. And then AJ's number is 216-210-5365, and his email is there.
Alright, abstract. The creation of the digital dive log signature system is important due to an outdated system that scuba divers use to track dives. The scuba divers use a dive log to track dives, and a dive master must physically sign all the divers' logs to verify that the diver went on the dive. With a lot of people and multiple dives, the dive master will have to sign a great deal of logs over a course of their time working. Our system will make the signing of the logs easier by the diver scanning the dive master's QR code that holds a digital signature and have it applied to the digital dive logs.
Our user stories. As a scuba diver, I'd like to be able to speed up the time it takes my dive master to sign off on my last dive. As a dive master, it takes way too long to sign off on dives. I would love to have an easier and digitalized way to sign off on divers' previous dives. As a software developer and scuba diver, bringing scuba diving and software together will create a more efficient way of logging and signing off on dives. As a software developer, I want to help digitalize and make anything more efficient, and this is a great way of helping divers and dive masters digitalize logbooks.
So here's our design diagram 1. So we have the information that the dive master creates almost like a profile, sends it to our Unix server, then that information is used to make a QR code. The diver scans the QR code, and then the signature is generated from the QR code and is sent through all the way over to the dive logs that need signing, and they're signed. Design diagram 2, a lower level. So what we added is a larger group up here that explains the database in a little bit more detail. Information processed from dive master, then the database takes information and generates a QR code information, which is then sent back down to the dive master, which that information used, whether it's all of it or not, creates a QR code that is used for signatures, and then the QR code can be given publicly, and the diver still scans, and then all the dive logs that are needed will be stored on the diver's phone, but they can use that signature to sign all of them. And then the lowest level, design diagram 3, the database has been in more detail. So the information such as the name, dive card, and a couple of other things are sent to the database for record, and then whatever's needed for the signature will be sent back down. This is to prevent anyone just signing their own. This way any information can be tracked and sent back for verification. Signature needed, so the dive master's phone will generate the QR code and present it. This can either be through the phone or physical, such as hanging a piece of paper up on a wall and saying it, and just having the divers all scan it. So dive scanner and then physical copy made. So that's what I'm talking about here. And then, as I said before, all of these, all the logs will be signed. And then there's an example in our GitHub of what a dive card would look like. So milestones, all the research gathered, we are finishing that up, and that is close to being finished. This is basically how to use Android Studio and how QR codes work, as long as any more notes we need. Starting designing user interfaces and SQL code database. So this is making physical designs and showing what all the things will actually look like. This is so we don't go straight headbutting into coding and making mistakes. Starting to code database and user interface. This will be the next big milestones. That's after we have all of our database drawn out and along with interfaces. Then after all the coding, our next big milestone will be the first prototype test. Then this will be followed by the second prototype test, and then the final product, which will be using for the senior design. And anything else, any other paperwork that needs to be done, that'll be our final milestone, meaning we will be done. So the timeline, we're now finishing up the research. We're now into the phase of designing the database. We're giving ourselves until about after Thanksgiving to get that done, just before finals and stuff start. Right here, the implementation of a database, we're giving ourselves from after Thanksgiving all the way through Christmas break until about the second week of spring semester to get that done. We will be working over Christmas break on this while coding, since that's the most amount of time. And then, such as these others, this is just creating the app, giving ourselves until then. We want to have everything kind of talking and communicating to each other. 2 weeks to try and refine everything before we actually make a good prototype by the first week of February. And then the first prototype will be from about the first week of February and ongoing. Just so, because we'll be doing the prototype after prototype, fixing any bugs, and hopefully have everything from then to the end of semester ready for that actual senior design.
Constraints that appear during the prototype build of our project. One major constraint is the security of the app. The dive master signatures will have to be sent to the SQL database in a very secure manner. We will be able to use built-in software on this SQL Server software. However, we will have to test the actual safety of the security firewall. Another constraint is making it used widely. I know some older people, they're not like completely adapted to the technology era, and I know some dive masters will not change their normal ways of signing off on dives. This in turn will impact the success of our app. Even though the app will make it very easy to sign off on dive logs, some masters will not adapt themselves to the app. The third constraint we have is professional. AJ and I have had a background in this area of app development. I've had a background in QR code, digital signatures, that I used with the athletic department in a previous co-op. However, it would be a very big challenge setting up a working SQL server and allowing these digital signatures to be passed from diver and dive master. We will have to do an abundance of research on the app development side to make this a working prototype. The current state of the project, we are in a research and planning phase of the project. After this presentation, coding will start and our prototype will be on its way. We will first focus on the SQL database, then the front-end UI will be designed in collaboration of the database. Our expected accomplishments. We expect our prototype to be near finished and testing has started. This will give us ample time to debug any issues in our app before any deadlines. All research, planning, and administration work will also be finished so we can focus our time solely on the app. Who is doing what on the project? AJ, he is working on the SQL Server setup in assistance with connecting the app to the server. Right now he's working on project descriptions, milestones, diagrams, and timeline. Vince, he's working on constraints, user stories, project presentation, complete UI and app development, assisting on SQL Server setup and connection with the app. We expect a fully working app prototype that allows QR codes to be scanned and saved to the database. This in turn will allow the diver to receive a digitally signed dive log from the dive master. We will present the app and show the expo all of its working features that we have on the prototype. This could be just doing a live demo of, say, a dive log, and I could be the diver and AJ could be the dive master, and we can do a little a demo of how the system works and show off all of its features.